Salutations and greetings, EgoHackers. Welcome to today's video where we'll be discussing why the MBTI is a shitstorm of a test and why there's a lot more to the personality story than those feeble MBTI letters say there is. The MBTI sits among the most popular and culturally stimulating personality assessments out there. At parties, in the classroom, or in conversations with friends, someone is bound to ask, "Hey, do you know what your type is?" This hip-like quality that has emerged from the 16 types test rivals astrology as a cultural strategy to obtain secret insights into our psyches. At this juncture of psychology and culture lies the first major flaw in the MBTI system. The criticisms brought against the MBTI are similar to the indictments against astrology and horoscopes. If you take the MBTI test more than once, you're likely to get different results depending on your mood, life circumstances, or the stages of development within your own psyche. You might test INFJ one day and INFP the next. That's so me, you might say when you read the INFJ description, but say you take the test in the future and you get INFP. The chances of your reaction being, "That's so me too," are higher than most would like to admit. This flaw of the MBTI is akin to the criticisms of horoscopes and astrology typing. If you make the horoscope seem just general enough, and the distinguishing characteristics between, say, a Sagittarius sun and an Aries sun just blurry enough, then a person can fully embrace whatever identity the horoscope says they have. The MBTI tests fall under the same criticism. The personality profiles are too general and rarely explain the mechanics of the underlying behavior. This is unfortunate because the origins of the Myers-Briggs type indicator were rooted in an attempt to bring a more scientific backbone to personality. But the growing popularity of the MBTI test has made it shallow, and its explanations of personality unprofound. The primary reason that horoscopes and the MBTI are popular is that they're easy to access, and they require little effort for someone to be told who they are. Identity is simply more complex than most tests are equipped to handle. Let's talk about why the MBTI is incomplete. The biggest reason the MBTI is incomplete is because it does not dive deeply into the why. The letters, E versus I, S versus N, F versus T, and J versus P, are very misleading representations of what is actually occurring within someone's mind. The cognitive functions, which differentiate every element of personality into external or internal binaries, are completely missing from most personality tests. For example, intuition can be extroverted or introverted, NE or NI for short. Extroverted intuition is aware of the future of those around them, whereas introverted intuition is aware of one's own future. The letter N on the MBTI makes it seem like intuition is a neutral, all-encompassing characteristic, and this is absolutely not the case. The same pattern can be criticized for all the letters. Every letter actually translates to a binary of cognitive functions. Thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition are all either introverted or extroverted. Further, a personality is made up of 4 cognitive functions, 2 extroverted and 2 introverted. If someone's top function is introverted, that person is an introvert, regardless of if the function is a sensing, intuitive, feeling, or thinking function. This means that a type that has extroverted intuition can still be an introvert. The cognitive functions are the very basic building block of Jungian analytical psychology. The MBTI fails to explicitly reveal these basic fundamental tools of psychological types. Instead, it relies on the, at best, shaky letter dichotomies. The letters of the MBTI tell less than half the story of personality, and they don't even tell that piece of the story very well. Another aspect of the MBTI test is percentages, which are effectively meaningless. Say you scored 56% I and 44% E on the MBTI test. These percentages mean absolutely nothing. At the very best, they may assist in helping you find the intricacies of your psychological development, but even this is a very generous thing to say about the percentages. Nobody is 60% thinking and 40% feeling. That's just wrong. We will be exploring how it does actually work in future videos. Then there's the other big problem. People often take personality tests from the perspective of how they perceive themselves externally or how they want to be perceived by others. It is our opinion that most of the MBTI tests steer into this bias without proper filtration. Most of us want to be perceived as kind and perhaps even gentle as opposed to stern and direct. The issue with the letter dichotomies is that they're pitted against each other. It's thinking or feeling. Most people, not all but most, perceive themselves as kind and thoughtful of others. This creates a tilt in the test results toward testing as feeling, which only further clouds a person's actual psychological type. The deeper reality is that every type is both thinking and feeling, but how and why this is so is not addressed by the MBTI whatsoever. Every single type has both a feeling and a thinking function within their personality type. All this to say, not only does the MBTI fail in nuance, but the accuracy of the test is severely jeopardized by the tester's own bias, and that bias is often enabled by the test itself. If you want to take a test that eliminates the thinking-feeling bias, check out our own personality test at www.uja.app. Uja is spelled U-D-J-A. One more thing. Your personality type cannot change over time. Have you ever met that person who tested as ENFP in high school and a few years later tested as INFP? Maybe that says something like, "Look, I'm an introvert now." I hate to break it to you, but your personality as far as Jungian analytical psychology is concerned doesn't change. It can develop and expand, but its roots will always be the same. Why is this? Imagine the cognitive functions as tools. Say that introverted thinking is like a food processor and introverted feeling is like scales. No matter how sharp or developed one's TI or FI becomes, they never stop being a processor or scales. To say that your personality can change is like saying the hard drive in your computer can turn into a monitor after enough time has passed. It's like saying a hammer can turn into a drill after it's been used long enough. It's just not going to happen. However, personality can appear to change because of a concept known as cognitive development or cognitive integration. This is a concept that this channel is dedicated to thoroughly exploring so that you can become the best version of your personality. The reason people think their personality can change is because the tools that the MBTI uses are too shallow and weak to provide an alternate explanation for changes in psychological preference. Well, suddenly, now I'm an introvert. No, you're not. But you may have become a more dynamic variant of your personality. All this to say, your personality type cannot change, but it can develop. You'll notice in other videos that we use the MBTI letters to label the 16 archetypes of personality. Why do we do this? It's not because we support or identify with the MBTI, and remember the MBTI is just a test, but because it helps us reach people like you. We use the letters for pragmatic purposes only. The vital thing to remember, though, is that when we use MBTI acronyms like ENTJ, we are not referring to how much E versus I they test it as, but about the specific cognitive functions, cognitive attitudes, interaction styles, temples, and the four sides of the mind that the ENTJ has in particular. What are these cognitive attitudes, interaction styles, temples, and four sides of the mind? They are the collective iceberg that is below the small tip of the MBTI acronym ENTJ. The acronym is a small drop compared to the ocean of information, complexity, and psychological development that lies right under the simple reductionist MBTI lettering. And this channel is dedicated to exploring that ocean thoroughly, so that all the knowledge you need to understand yourself and others, and live a better life because of it, is accessible to you in abundance. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.